I am so thankful that you actually came on here to talk with us because like I said, I've been listening to your music for a very long time because you've been making music. God's blessed you for many years.
Yes, I'm 40, I'm 43 as of now. And I tell you what, it has been quite the journey and adventure. My first record came out when I was, oh goodness, I was, I recorded it when I was 14 and 15, but it didn't come out
Wow.
until I was 16. So that was in 96. So since then, I think people ask me this question, I should know the answer. Since then, I, I've had, I've done how many records? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I don't remember how many records I've done, but the cool thing is that they're out there and there's also
Mm.
Wikipedia. So I guess I could look at yeah, it's been quite the adventure, lots of like Cinderella moments, feeling like,
Mm.
wow, I get to like do this. Like, this is amazing. Also, some really challenging parts because,
Yeah.
at 16 years old, having to get on an airplane to wake up at 3:30 in the morning to catch a flight at 5 a.m. And you're supposed to do all your schoolwork on the plane, and all you want to do
Mm-hmm.
is sleep because when you get there, you know that you're going to have to get to work and stuff. So it's been just, lots of fun and crazy and kind of challenging parts to it, to the point where
Yeah.
actually I was traveling so much um, after the first record that my mom, I think she just felt sorry for me. I think it was 300 dates in a calendar year is what I
Uh,
had.
That's basically, you didn't have a break.
I didn't. I
Wow.
had no break. So I think my mom just felt sorry for me. So she told me, I guess it was if I was 16, I would have been class of 98. So freshman, sophomore, I guess my sophomore year, she
Mm.
told me to go ahead and put the books away, and I did. So
Wow.
when I was 18, I finally went and got my GED so I could graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Wow.
it's been good. It's been a good times and lots of stories in between, and lots of traveling and lots of getting to see things. Probably the
Mm.
best education you could ever have, which is travel, because you learn cultures. Also with math, you learn exchange rates, all that crazy stuff that is really valuable, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. God had you on a journey from the very beginning, because you were traveling around with your family first, right? Is
Yes.
that the kind of how you got started? So you want to just share a little bit about how? So one of my favorite questions to start off is just how did you find God or God find you? And I know for you, I believe you from a very young age were in involved
Yes.
with the Lord.
Yeah. Well, my parents were pastors from the time I was like bornish. So my parents were pastors, and my dad decided to step down from the church. And I have older siblings. So we're like a true modern family. So my dad had two kids from his first marriage. My mom had two kids from her first marriage. Then they got married and had me. So
It's like yours,
I
mine, and ours.
yeah, exactly. It's like really that way. So, because my siblings were so much older, they were already in college. So I was still
Oh,
left at the house, and I was like 9 years old. And my parents were
yeah.
like, "Hey, we're gonna go. I feel like God's calling us on to the evangelistic field." Which, if you don't know what evangelists are basically like traveling pastors that go from church to church, who don't necessarily pastor that particular church or group of people, but they kind of give the pastor a weekend off. So
Mm.
it's a special guest kind of a situation. So my parents were also singers, so we would not just preach. My dad wouldn't just preach, but we would also do like music and like
Yeah.
musical specials and stuff. So that's how I started traveling. So that was at 9 years old. So 9, 10, 11. I was raised in the back seat of a Honda Accord.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what I was doing, my homeschooling at that point. Thank God at that time, all I can say is thank God I did not get car sick back then, because now I can't read in the
Yes.
car to save my life without getting sick. Can you
Oh my
imagine?
goodness. I couldn't even imagine because I get very, very car sick. So that's so funny that you even say that because that's like what a blessing from the Lord just to be able to get you through that
Right.
time.
Right, because I wouldn't have been able to like, I would have been like been stuck as a fourth grader my whole life. So, um, so thank God that was what happened. But then what was really cool, you'll like this, Taylor. When I was 13, we upgraded to a motorhome.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love motorhomes, by the way. I like that's one of my dreams is to just get an RV and let the kids just learn to just live on the fly
Yeah.
and just go preach to people and just
Yeah.
talk about the Lord and that's one of my
Oh,
dreams.
it was so much fun. I have so many like really great memories. Now we didn't have a house. We were basically homeless, but we had our motorhome. So we would
Yeah.
travel from place to place to place. And then sometimes we would stop at these like RV sites that had or campgrounds that had like water parks.
Oh,
And so I
that's
would get to
fun.
go to the water parks, 11 or 12 and 13, because I guess we got when I was 12. Anyway, so, but by the time I was 13, I got discovered, as they call it. Someone heard
Mm.
me and they sent back a videotape to Nashville. So about a month later, a manager from Nashville came out to an event that I was singing at, and they asked my parents if we'd be willing to relocate to Nashville because they had a record deal to offer me. And I was like, wow, who am I? This is the craziest thing. It was such a gift from God because I felt, so undeserving.
Mm.
Um, I had worked, a lot and I'd been traveling for a long time, but I mean, there are like tons of great and far more talented people and singers than myself. So I guess I just always kind of felt like I was at the right place at the right time. So that was when I was 13, and then I started making the first record, which was called Heavenly Place when I was 14, and then it continued until I was 15, and I think I went on my first tour with For Him when I was 15. The record hadn't come out yet, and I was traveling with For Him and Greg
Mm.
Long. So, and
Wow.
my mom, of course, had to come with me because I couldn't be as a little girl
Yeah.
by myself with a
Absolutely.
bunch of guys.
Absolutely.
So that
What
was
was that like having that experience as a child? So I was a child actress, and so I kind of
real.
know what that, yeah, so I know what that side of things, but what was it like being a child in like the musical industry?
Um, it's probably pretty similar
Mhm.
because, like, it's like, hey, here's a stage. Now go and be a trick pony. So you're like, okay, let me go. I'm just gonna do whatever I'm supposed to do, and because you're so young, like you don't know any boundaries. There are no boundaries.
Yeah.
You don't see that I should be nervous or this
Mhm.
is a scary thing because you're just kind of naive. So you
Yeah.
just go with it.
Absolutely. I understand that. Do you feel like how do you feel like God like protected you and like molded you through that whole situation?
Golly, I have to say, I had great parents, and
Mhm.
I think the fact that, my mother traveled with me, she could keep me kind of like grounded.
Yeah.
Also, I did have my manager who was fantastic, who kept me grounded as well. And just, I think because of how hard I had to work, I think it just naturally kind of kept my feet to the floor
Mm.
because um, because I never stopped to enjoy like the stuff that was happening because I had to
Yeah.
think about the next thing and to go to sleep real quick so I could wake up to get on the next plane, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, with no days off, with like a 300-day tour, that's got to be
That was
so
rough.
insane.
It
Yeah,
was it is rough. Not gonna lie.
I bet. I absolutely. I can't imagine. That's a lot of work, especially for a young person to be able to like fathom working that much when you should be being a kid sometimes too. But God has a way of making all that happen so that you could be able to
Yeah.
be the adult you are now.
Um,
And
I always feel like to whom much is given, much is required. So it did kind of mean that I had to not necessarily have a normal life or a
mhm,
childhood, but I was also able to, and I hate this word because it's so like it's like a huge responsibility, but I was able to be a role model to
mhm,
younger girls and
yeah,
to to be like an example of, hey, singing about Jesus is not just for, church or just for your parents, it's for
yeah.
us. Because if, you know, you want to sing you want to share what's in your heart and what's in your soul, and when God gives you a gift, use it for him.
Mm. Amen. Absolutely. What was your experience like in the business? Because I know entertainment industry is all very multifaceted, and being a Christian singer and being able to sing about the Lord, did you ever get any backlash for that? Being able to be, or was it pretty, because you were in the Christian world, was it pretty easy for you?
It was easy for me because I was in the Christian world. Probably the backlash I got mostly was when I signed with Sony Discos, with Sony, to make Spanish records for them. So because I was making Spanish, English, English Christian records, I also figured that the Spanish world, like that, those records were in the general market, not
Hmm.
necessarily just the Christian market in Spanish. So I was able to share my faith, and of course, some people had some like qualms about it because I would do like TV shows that some of the other artists and people that were on it were not necessarily Christians, or like they were like half dressed kind of a thing. So when I was on this show, doing my little songs,
Yeah.
so that was a challenge there. But I also felt like it was really a great mission field, being able to sing about Jesus
Mm.
at like, a Latin Grammy event. That was like huge, I felt.
I think absolutely. I guarantee you that's why God put you there, is to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, also just I think that that particular market at that time thought that Christian music was just church music,
Mm.
but it wasn't just church music. There's also Christian music entertainment. So
Yes.
a lot of people didn't that back then. That wasn't a thing.
No, I think that it's gotten better now, though. I think there's a lot more entertainment for Christians, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yes, please. And I've got, I'm raising two kids here. I've got a 14 and 15-year-old that I'm just going,
Yeah.
oh,
That's
uh,
the age where they start consuming more and more content. I feel like that's the hard, it's a very hard
yes.
age. And they're boys,
Yeah.
right? So,
And they're boys. They're boys. So it's like, seriously, it's been, I guess, if I'll backtrack, but so I know that there were lots of challenges, like with the whole, traveling a lot and not having a childhood, but
mhm.
I would go through all those things again if it got me to this point and I
Mm.
married Nick, because I wouldn't have met my husband had I not gotten my record deal in Nashville, because he was signed to the same record label
Aw.
after, like, further down the road. But we met, and because we met, we dated, we married, we have two kids. So, like,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I'll do it all again if I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. God always takes everything and just makes it's such a beautiful thing for those who believe in him. It's beautiful to see. So
Yeah.
your husband was a singer as well.
Yes. So
Yeah.
he was the lead singer for the band called Salvador. Have you ever heard of Salvador?
I have not. I
Okay.
should.
Well,
I'm
he's the
gonna have
lead
to look
singer.
into it now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. You'll check it
amazing.
out.
I will absolutely.
He's like the super, like, cute dude with like the perfect teeth and like the perfect eyes, and has like lashes that do this. Like his lashes are so long that the other day we were making a fire at our fire pit, and I looked at him and he had singed like the edges of them because they're
Oh
so
no.
long. And
Why do the men always get fantastic eyelashes? My son has fantastic eyelashes, and I always look at him and I'm like, what do you need those for? Like, women pay for
It's
these.
not fair.
We have to, this is going to be something we have to ask the Lord. We have to, like, when we get up to heaven,
Yeah.
we're going to be like, God, why did you waste the beautiful eyelashes on men?
And my sons have them too.
Do that. Of course they do.
Not me,
It's
I'm going
okay.
like, oh, wait, let me see. Can I see that?
Yeah. We're curling them and we're
Yeah.
making them darker and we wear fake ones.
Can I get a prescription for Latisse and just do that? But it's interesting because it's a real, the struggle's real. But my husband, it's awesome. He's an incredible singer. So he, um, now that the kids are, 13 and I'm sorry, 14, he just turned 14, 14 and 15. They're only 14 and a half months apart.
Oh, wow. Oh, you were,
Mm.
that's it. That's like, there's nothing more harder, I think, than having those two babies.
Yeah, I
Wow.
actually talked to a lady at the grocery store about a couple of years ago, and I had the boys with me, and she goes, she said that she had a set of twins, and she also had another set of kids that were 14 months apart. She said that it was so much easier, the set of twins versus the kids that were so close in age, because she said once you get out of like a um like not a habit, like a phase. Once you get out of
Mm-hmm.
one phase,
Yep.
all of a sudden you're like, oh no, now the next one's onto the same phase, onto that phase. You're like,
Yep.
So she said the twins, they get over the stuff at the exact same time because the phases, they're so close in age. So yeah, that we didn't mean for that to happen, the 14 and a half months separation
God,
between kids.
God said, I have other plans.
Yeah, right. And what's funny is I always tell people, thank God that my firstborn was born first, because had the second been born first, he would have been an only child.
God knows these things. He does it. Yep. Yep.
He was a, his nickname was every time crying. Every time crying. I can't even find a picture of him where he's not screaming.
Oh, he was the second baby. He was like, no more, no more. You were like, we're done.
We're
This
done.
is
We're
it. We're
done.
done.
So, but
It's always those first ones. Those first ones are con babies. They're usually
I
like, they con
know.
you into a second one, and you're like, how did we get here?
I know. With the first one, we could still have a life. We went out to restaurants. He would just sit in his chair and his carrier and just be like super sweet, just look around and happy. Second one, life was gone.
Yep. That's how my kids are. My first one was a little angel. He was so
Right?
sweet. And my second one, she came around and she was just everything was she's dramatic. I wonder where she gets that from since I'm an actor. But everything is big and dramatic and it's like the end of the world all the time. And she's only 4 now and it's
He
still
has
like, oh,
feelings.
like, oh my gosh.
Oh
It's
yeah.
so, but it's a blessing. It's so fun to see how the Lord seriously does make each one of us different in such beautiful
Yes.
ways. It's so
It
cool.
is. It's so cool. His his ways are perfect. So,
Hmm.
and I think we had talked a little bit about this. My oldest son, when he was born, like I told you, super easy, super chill. When he was about, because they're so close in age, obviously, we could kind of see that, the milestones were different for the boys. And it was like, that's interesting. I think other kids are doing this. Why isn't he doing
Yeah.
this? So when he was about he was about 2 years old, we actually got him tested to just to see like if everything was matching up, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So when he was 2, they said that he had a pervasive developmental delay. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, let's get therapies. I have great insurance. So we did speech therapy, occupational therapy, the whole thing. It was intense. It was like,
Mm.
3 different things each week. And when you're trying to tote another baby, it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So time went on, and slowly we noticed that the little one was kind of surpassing the big boy.
Mm.
So it came time to start school. So that pervasive developmental delay continued into his elementary education. So we start kindergarten. Awesome. It's, you can't, nobody can tell that, that there's a delay of any kind. So then the end of second grade rolls around, because after second grade, third grade, like, the grades start counting. So it's not like just, hey, what's 1 + 1 or
Yep.
what's your colors? So we had to do an official, like, I learned a bunch of stuff like what is an IEP, because he had one since he started kindergarten.
Mhm.
An IEP is a individual educational program or plan. So he had somebody to help him, like he had an assistant, all through kindergarten, first and second grade. But third grade, we were going to start third grade, and he needed to have an official diagnosis. So we went into this meeting with about, gosh, like probably 15 people from
Mm.
county, the principal, the superintendent, just tons of people, and also the pediatrician. So the pediatrician told me that well, I guess they all concurred. They sat us down and they told us that Mr. and Mrs. Gonzalez, your son is autistic. I was like, you mean artistic? No, autistic. I said, well, I was not okay with that,
Mm.
because, like we've been talking about, I have been singing about Jesus, to Jesus, for Jesus my whole life. And so has my husband. We've been in ministry our whole lives. How in the world are you going to tell me that my son is going to struggle with communicating, that this, we're not going to catch up? It's not just a delay, it's an actual thing that I know nothing about. What does that even mean? Autism, spectrum disorder. What is, I don't understand that. That's like a movie. So, yeah, that was a rough time frame. I just broke down in tears, tons of tears in that meeting. And I got home. My husband was really strong because he was being tough for me.
Yeah.
And he just said, well, hey, he's our guy. We're going to figure this out. And then that night, I was laying in bed and I heard him in the shower sobbing. He broke down too. But it was really scary at that time. Yeah, really scary.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I know about that. My son was just diagnosed with autism. So my oldest. So it's definitely it's a learning thing when they start throwing around things that you don't understand completely. And you're like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And for me, it was really just looking and like praying into it and going like, God, how does this fit your plan for my son and for our family? Like, how is this, like, show me you in all of this, because this is hard. It's very hard. And so I very much understand all of that. And I know what that's like because it's definitely, it's a learning process. You're further along in it because your son's older now.
Mhm.
So you're further along in the journey, but I can tell that there's going to be probably some amazing moments because they're fantastically wonderful children, but it's also probably there's hard ones too.
Yeah. Yeah, there
Mhm.
are. It's at that particular time for myself, I was very angry with God.
Yeah.
Like, very, because how are you going to tell me my kid's broken?
Mm.
My kid's not broken because like God doesn't make mistakes. He is perfect. So
Yes.
like everything is perfect. So no, my kid is not broken. Everything is fine.
Mm.
But after being angry with God for, for quite a while, because I had to also go through a mourning period. I had to
Yes.
mourn the dreams I had for my son and try to come up with the new dreams I'm supposed to have for my son. What is he going to be like?
Mm.
What does his future look like? Is he going to have a full life?
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to teach his little brother how to pick up a chick?
Yeah. It looks different, and it's definitely a process, man. I fully agree with that.